It'll be the content contributes something else that contributes to the eventual ROI. So in that case, you have to know the bigger business to be able to figure out how content can be of service. So if you have unstructured content, can and a content delivery platform work with it? Well, yes. But is the accuracy going to be where you want it to be? No.
No. As AI systems evolve, how do you expect content preparation standards to shift?
Now we have a situation where we have content that exists, and there's this new push to deliver it through AI-enabled chatbots.
Welcome to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast, where Gauri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Good day, everyone. Our guest today is Rahel Bailie, Senior Content Consultant at Content Seriously. Welcome, Rahel, to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. And thank you for having me on your podcast.
Fantastic. So, Rahel, I know you've got plenty of experience in this area, but let's just start with how did you get into this technical writing space and what motivated you? Who was your inspiration? Please give us some insights in your early days as well, please.
Working with numbers, and I wanted to work with content. So I was looking for what could I do with content, and I saw an ad in the newspaper back in the days when I still used newspapers for a proofreader, and I applied for it. And it was in a technical writing department. I didn't even know that technical writing existed. I didn't realize that jobs that worked with content were actually a thing. So I landed in the tech writing group, and I did all these things related to tech writing. Didn't really do the tech writing itself at the time. I did production coordination and so on. But then I did go into tech writing into the really deep end, like APIs for telecommunications. And from there went into content strategy because I was always looking for a more efficient way to do something. My world seemed to have kind of come back full circle. So now I'm working in content strategy, but in the technical communication space.
Okay, great. I'm going to start straight with AI now for you. Given your experience, I think you will be the right person to ask. Now, when companies talk about preparing content for AI, what do you see them misunderstanding the most at the strategic level?
So it's interesting because I think that not enough consideration to the strategic level. What I see happening is that there's this panic to do AI, and they don't really know what they're doing or why. There's the C level, the C-suite, who are being told that if you don't use AI, you're missing the boat and you're not doing things efficiently enough. They're pushing it down to the managerial level, who have to try to figure out how can we use it, but they know that they need to incorporate it because that's a top-down pressure on them. And then you have the people who are actually doing the doing, who are finding pockets of ways to use AI to help them in their particular situation. But I don't see yet that kind of coordinated across the department, even never mind across the organization, but across the department, use of AI for better content operations or to improve quality. We're in that transition phase right now. So I don't think that there's enough thought about how to use it strategically.
So let's talk about the existing content then, because there's already so much prepared and already being used. Now, what do you think or see as a criteria uh, to assess whether the existing content is AI ready?
Sure. Well, w in the industry, we've been using AI for 25 years in things like Acrolinks and Congri and Grammarly and those kinds of apps. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
AI has been used for decades now to look at things like duplication, saying things five different ways when you could say it one way, and then it affects your translation costs and so on. That like there are lots of ways that we've been uh, and we've been calling it content optimization, right? So we've been
Yeah.
optimizing our content, the existing content, using AI. So there's always been that part of it. And that's I'm going to kind of put that in one box to say we've got that. That's a mature piece of technology and a mature process for doing that, right? So we know all of the things that we can do with that type of AI and what it can bring to our content to make it better,
Yeah.
existing content.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a situation where we have content that exists, and there's this new push to deliver it through AI-enabled chatbots. So we
Right.
had chatbots and we had conversation designers who would write things and have, I think tend to think of it as if else statements, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they would look at conditions and they would look at keywords and certain things. But now it's we've moved even away from that to these AI-enabled chatbots. So they should be able to go into an existing repository and pull out an exact answer from a large body of content. And that body of content could be existing PDFs, HTML pages, XML pages, Excel spreadsheets, Word document, big body of content that is product related. So let's say user guides, maintenance guides, troubleshooting, all those things that we have that we give to customers to use to do whatever they need to do with the product. And I know this is it's kind of by necessity because you have software where
Yeah.
there is no physical product. It is just software, and maybe there are APIs, and then you have manufacturing where you have instructions to set it up, to set up your equipment, and then how to use your equipment and so on. So you've got this big range of industries and verticals, and you provide whatever you need to provide to customers to be able to do what they need to do. And
Mm-hmm.
then using this, some sort of a content delivery platform that's uh, a something like fluid topic sample or something that's built into a CCMS or something that's out there that's more kind of search engine-ish.
Yep.
They want to be able to put on this, natural language that customers can use natural language and just ask a question, and the chatbot will come back with some sort of or a piece of information. And that is creating a whole new level of expectation for the existing content because we know that content is the more structured your content, the more that AI can correctly interpret it.
Absolutely. Very
So
well
if you
said.
have unstructured content, can and a content delivery platform work with it? Well, yes. But is the accuracy going to be where you want it to be? No.
No.
So how do you increase that accuracy? Because we know that LLMs, they hallucinate and that they sometimes get things wrong, but you can't really fault them if you've done all the things that you need to do,
The
like for
groundwork.
example,
Yes.
using a rag model. So if you put a rag model on, you should get better,
Yeah.
you know, better results. But if you don't give them enough context, then how can you get a good result out of it? So, it's remediating the content, the existing content, to be able to work in this environment. So then, can you use AI to remediate the content?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. So
Mhm.
there are certain things you can do with AI, and then there are certain things that need human oversight.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can just run a script, yeah, anytime that you hear a software developer say just run,
Mhm.
because they are setting up false expectations, so
Mhm.
you need to, AI is like a gifted English major that's masquerading as a business consultant, right? That like you have to babysit them. You have to treat them as an intern. And so there's certain things that you could do. Like you could go through and say, okay, turn everything into active voice. And take this document and, maybe your document's 1,500 pages and you say, pull out anything that looks like an instruction and turn it into a bunch of numbered steps. But then you have to go back and check that it's actually done that and
Yeah.
it's done it well.
Yeah.
So if you've ever used one of those AI note takers during meetings, and you know how it will focus on some little detail that was a throwaway remark, and now it makes that the focus of the meeting. So you can have AI where that happens as well. So you always have to just be there and doing that oversight to the results that it puts out.
Very well said. I think I have a follow-up question. You might have touched based on that very slightly. As AI systems evolve, how do you expect content preparation standards to shift? So, you spoke about making sure the content is AI ready. So, how do you expect somebody to be prepared for the shift?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, so I'm going to answer it first in the larger picture and then bring it down to specifics. So in the
Sure.
larger picture, it behooves us, I don't know if people still use that word, uh, as a profession, an LLM does and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more familiar we are with this, the more we can leverage their properties for our specific situation. Right? So we need to be looking at, how does an LLM work with a knowledge graph? How does an LLM actually predict ChatGPT and Claude and all the other ones? Which LLMs are good for which purposes?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some that are better at analysis and others that are better at data crunching. So we need to just really understand how all of these work. And then when you get down into your specific situation, then you can say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish with our like what is our end goal for this? And that becomes almost tactical, right?
Yeah.
So we want to take these three brands. We've bought three companies and we've got three brands, and we want to make them all sound the same, and we want them to all use this new brand name.
Mm.
Well, that's very tactical, but you can get the AI to do a lot of that. It just means that you have to think about what you want out of it strategically and then what you want out of it tactically and break it down into those pieces. But you can't do that unless you're familiar with all of those big pieces that I talked about before,
Yeah.
right? So, because what you'll get is, a company will say, well, I don't know, we have Copilot licenses, so we're going to use Copilot for everything.
Mm.
So that's kind of like saying, I have a whisk in the kitchen and I'm going to use that whisk for everything. I'm going to
Mm.
use it to chop and to dice and to stir and to, And
Yeah,
and maybe it can do some of those things, but it can't do all of those things.
yeah.
And now it's going to be your advocacy that will move that argument ahead to say, excuse me, but for this we need this, and for this other thing we need that. And you do realize that these aren't the same.
Hmm.
And nobody's going to tell you that because they won't know that. It's going to be up to you to know that.
Yeah, because you're the owner, correct. Now, so let's say people take all these efforts and make their existing content AI ready, or they are prepared to create contents using the AI technologies, so that they get the right results. Where do you see the fastest ROI, or how do they measure the fastest ROI when teams are optimizing the content for AI?
Okay, so ROI is tricky because it's the ROI is usually at a strategic level from the C-suite, and they're really not thinking about content. So they're thinking about, I'll give you an example. In life sciences, the biggest ROI is time to market. And they don't care if the content is excellent or not,
Yeah,
as long as they can get their product to market, because they're going to lose millions for every day that they don't get to market.
true.
So how is the content going to um, how is getting your content ready going to help that?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to think really far out to say, okay, let's work backwards. How can we contribute to that? So it won't be the content itself. It'll be the content contributes to something else that contributes to um, the uh, the eventual ROI. So in that case, so Altuant actually produced, because I do like content solutions for Altuant.
Mm-hmm.
They produced a an article on their blog to talk about how by having the content um, more making sure the content was very accurate
Yep.
and very findable, that they reduced. I want to get the numbers right here, but I think they reduced it from um, 2 years to train up their scientists to half of that, less
Wow.
than half of it.
Uh-huh.
And because of that, it meant that they could be productive faster, and then they could get the product out the door earlier.
Earlier. Yeah. So
So when you
everything
look
is
at that,
linked.
it's like
Yeah.
it's for them, it was like training the folks. And so what was the blockage in training the folks? They couldn't find the right content. And then even when they did find the right content, they couldn't be sure it was accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So
Got it.
there's a perfect example. So when you're looking at what are we doing, it's like, what are we doing and why are we doing it? Because there was someone who said, well, like, oh, you're missing a lot of full stops at the end of your content. Who's going to deal with you?
Mm.
And I'm thinking, these engineers won't care if there's a full stop at the end, of a
Yep.
product description. And they're going to deal with us because their company has a PO open with us. And so, yes,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to deal with us, right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes we can get stuck on the wrong metric. So
Yeah.
finding a metric and, the ROI is going to be very situational. In one company, it's that. In another company, it's findability. In, we're selling 10,000 products. Can they find the right instruction to the right product? In other
Got it.
companies, it may reducing support calls. So
Mm-hmm.
if your content is AI ready and you've got maybe a global brand that has slightly different instructions for each country because of regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a support system, a centralized support system, and they are looking for that instruction, how do they know that they have A, an accurate one, and B, the right one for the right country?
Yep.
And so that can reduce the amount of churn in how you process returns or people getting the wrong information and then doing the wrong thing, and then it's a liability to the company. So you
Absolutely.
have to know the bigger business to be able to figure out how content can be of service.
And then eventually calculating the ROI from that content. Yeah, very
Exactly.
well said, Rahel. And I think this is a very different perspective as well when it comes to the ROI calculation. And yeah, very interesting. Now let's move on to our rapid fire round. Some best valuable resources you have consumed recently, particularly on the documentation side.
Uh, okay. Let's see. I did a course on uh, it's a free course by Anthropic on
Right.
AI. So it's kind of like basics of AI. And so,
Mhm.
it's a good starting point if you're just starting out. If you want something a little bit more advanced, then I would say read Tom Johnson's blog on I'd Rather Be Writing. He talks a
Yeah,
lot about the way he uses AI. Also, Dr. Lance Cummings, he's a teacher and at a university. He's a professor, and he uses AI in things like, curriculum development and creating exercises and so on. So it's not that you have that exact use case, but you can
yeah,
extrapolate some of the things he's done and apply it to TechCom.
very
I
good.
would also
Yeah,
follow Michael Ian Tosca on LinkedIn because he talks about structured content and knowledge graphs and really kind of elevates that discussion
yeah,
to another level. So those are things that just come to mind. I could probably think of 20 more.
yeah.
I actually did produce a list of people to follow for AI content on LinkedIn. So there's something like 13, 20 people that I think are, really um, uh, worth following, and they
Wow.
they will lead you to other resources. And I also right now there's an advent calendar going on of
Mhm.
AI ready content advent
Right.
calendar. So every day on LinkedIn, I'm posting something.
Okay.
The alphabet, it's so one for every letter of the alphabet, and there's some interesting ones in there, and they will lead you to other resources.
Very nice. There's so much out there for you to understand and equip yourself. Now, one word that comes to your mind when you hear documentation.
One word that comes to mind.
Yes. The moment you hear documentation, what's your picturization in the mind?
Uh, I picture, so I kind of in my mind I cross out the word
Mhm.
document and I put content because it's to me a document is the output of a bunch of content components. So that's what comes to mind immediately is let's take out the document from documentation and turn it into content because that's what people are consuming now.
A piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
What I would tell my 20-year-old self is a combination of two things. First, I would say, don't work at jobs that don't play to your strengths. Find what your strength is and then work at that. And in my case, that would have been content, but I would have done it 15 years sooner. And combined with that, I would say keep learning. And I have done that, but I would go back and say, you have no idea how fast the world is going to change. Keep learning, stay on top of things.
Fantastic. That's really great to I mean, it's like really good because it's not that simple to explain, but you really put it nicely. So thank you for that, Rahil. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, it's not easy to grasp everything what you've done in this technical writing space. But please feel free to add anything that I have missed to ask you.
Well, there's so much we could talk about, but actually, there's a book coming out probably in February 2026, and it's a collection of stories of women in technical communication, how they got into the business and kind of what their stories are. I think there's 24 women who are, who have contributed these stories. So, if that's kind of your interest in career progression and how things came to be, I would say go and look for the book.
Sure. Can you name the book again, please?
I think the title is going to be called Women in Technical Communication. It's going to
Right.
be
Okay.
published by XML Press, and the editor is Sharon Burton, who
Okay.
herself came to TechCom in a very unique and in a very unique way. And I think we all kind of landed in TechCom in a very unique way. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Understand. Super. So I think it was brilliant talking to you, Rahel, and thank you so much for sparing your time and talking through the most important topic, of course, which is AI. So I hope this will give some more additional details on how we can all get prepared for the upcoming months and upgrade in the very same technology. So once again, appreciate all your answers and all the very best for the projects that you're engaging right now. And take care.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledge Based Ninjas podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.